Good evening. It's Monday night, about 8 o'clock on the East Coast, so we're going to tonight cover playing around with GitLab and an introduction to CI processes with GitLab. I'm going to try to keep things short-ish tonight, basically how to get started. So Chad, Sam, Sean, Jason, have any of you played with GitLab before?
No, sir.
Nope. I have a GitLab server installed, but I don't use it.
You've played with GitHub though, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've played with Jenkins before.
Played with it.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah.
So effectively, I mean, GitLab would claim it's much more than this. But if you remember, there is a great commercial, which is, you got chocolate in my peanut butter, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. If we combine those two things, what did we create? The most delicious of all confections, the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, right? Well, if we combine a GitHub with a Jenkins, we don't get Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, we get a GitLab. Okay, so what I'm going to do is share with you my screen here, and we're going to review just things that I wish I would have known when I was trying to get started with GitLab. By the way, GitLab is a course that we teach here, so if you like what you're seeing, it's only a 2-day course. It's you hop in and you learn not only how to drive Git, but also GitLab here. Guys, number one, LS, LA, what are you seeing in my directory here? What do I got here?
Got a YAML file, hidden directories.
Okay, good. So I got my repository. You know, that's my what makes a repo, and right here is my hidden file, which is what makes GitLabbing possible. So let's take a peek at maybe my GitLab I have in place, vim.lab.ci. Okay, help me out here, gang. Let's figure out what what's happening here. GitLab, just like GitHub, is going to host my code. But it's also, if I fill out this file, a .gitlab-ci.yml, not YAML, .yml. If I include that file and I include the correct syntax, I can trigger builds. The same way Jenkins talks about triggering builds and building pipelines in order to trigger those, events. We do the same thing with GitLab, only it's potentially software as a service. Sean said, hey, I run that, in my home. You can self-manage as well, like Sean does. Looking here at what we want. If we include the key image beside the name of an image, that in this case would be found out on hub.docker.com, GitLab's going to select a thing called a GitLab Runner, which is going to have a connection to an instance of Docker, where it'll tell this instance of Docker, hey, go ahead and pull down a Alpine Linux environment, whatever's tagged latest from hub.docker.com, and run it. In that environment, we want to declare a couple of environmental variables: build type, release, and version 1.0. Down even further, I have what I want to do. This represents the start of my, I suppose, pipeline. I mean, it's the reason I say suppose is it's very short. This pipeline has one job. The job is to run this script. This script will run inside of this Linux container. I'm going to echo the value of build type, that should say release. I should echo version, that should say 1.0. Exit 0, that doesn't seem right. That's what exit code do you want to hop out of? Let's put exit code 1 here. That seems more sensible. And let's change build type to I don't know, Alta3 demo. All right, I'm going to perform a git add dot, a git commit. At this point, I think if you were on GitHub, I don't have this, I don't know this for sure. And by the time somebody else watches this video, they'll have changed it. But I believe on GitHub, you have to have a repo created before you can push to it. And I always ran into problems of creating a repository and accidentally putting a README in it, and then having to do some sort of rebase type of merge in order to get the repo I created at the command line to even push into, you know, the repository I created on GitHub. With GitLab, doesn't matter if they call them projects. A project is more encompassing than just a repo. We can just push as long as there's an SSH key in place. No big deal. I just say, hey, I want to push my current branch main up to GitLab. And it'll go, yeah, okay, that sounds good. We did that for you. If I hop out to GitLab, I probably have to do a refresh in order to see it. There's a GitLab CI research. And see that little pie chart in there? It disappeared. I clicked too fast. Sorry, you forgot your microscope. What we should have triggered here was if we go into CI and look at jobs, we should have triggered, oh, look, it failed. He failed for some reason. Maybe because we didn't put quotes around Alta3 or had a white space in there. I'm sure that's what it is. Oh, no, he got down to exit 1 right there. Oh, I changed it to exit code 1. It's been a long day. That should be exit code 0. Let's go back out here. Let's make the change. Let's change this to exit code 0. I don't want my pipeline to say it failed. It did all the other stuff. Alta3 demo was echoed for build type. 1.0 was echoed for version. It's just I actually told it, hey, when you're done, go ahead and hard fail. There was no chance that was ever going to say success. So let's go ahead and tweak that. Now, why I'm tweaking this, making a commit, git add dot git commit -m. What I'm showing you here is not really what this tool is for. It's not for printing stuff out to the screen. Of course, the implication is you would have your code inside the repository. We would push tests or instructions on how to build our code into a container. And what's really wild, if I go back to jobs, I now have a past job that just ran. What's really wild is in addition to a CI/CD pipeline, there is also, if I look at repository, there's a place to stash artifacts, so files. There's a place to list, right here, container registry. If my pipeline builds a container, we can stash it here and actually draw the container off of GitLab, which is really wild. All you have to do is have your either a token or however you're going to pull it here in place, and you can. So it really is more than just a Jenkins and a GitHub. It tries to be an entire, it tries to be a centralized toolkit for app developers. Last thing I could show you is under infrastructure here, Kubernetes cluster. For what it's worth, and we show this in our class, it'll also integrate with a Kubernetes cluster fairly easily. If you're going to build it on Amazon or Google, there's clean integrations. If you're going to connect to a cluster that you manage, you can do that as well, and then actually deploy your apps directly onto the cluster. Guys, any questions about that? My goal was not to make this a super long presentation tonight. Just show you that maybe you go out and you sign up for a GitLab account and start playing around. Any questions?
Can you host GitLab as a container?
You can. So GitLab is, when you go and sign up, it's a really good question, Sam. When you go and sign up, they're going to ask you, do you want to sign up for GitLab software as a service? Which is really a way of just to say, do you want to use GitLab.com like the way you would expect to use a website? Or do you want to self-manage? And self-manage is the process of grabbing your container and whatnot. In addition to the way you host, there's also subscription dues as well. We don't all ride for free here. There's different tiers of services you can get. One of the things that really gets a lot of people, if you're going to use GitLab.com, in order to do the CI/CD pipelining to get started with GitLab-ci.yaml, you have to prove to them you're not a human, and you do that by giving them a credit card that they do not keep on file the first time you give it to them. It's to make sure you're not a crypto mining bot. But with that caveat, if you're willing to prove to them, hey, I'm a human, you can get started with all that stuff, either through GitLab.com or through a self-hosted container way. Anybody else? Questions?
That Kubernetes cluster integration, is that something that we could do with, say, like your lab environment that you have there?
So, yeah, let me show you what that entails, because I didn't really dive into it as deeply as I should have. The way that GitLab integrates with whatever infrastructure you want to integrate it with is via a thing called a runner. So if we go back into our project, if memory serves, I think it's under settings general, perhaps. There is a place where they will CI/CD. There is a place where they will let you describe the runners that you want. Right here, it's under settings, CI/CD. Runners are processes that pick up and execute CI/CD jobs. How do I configure runners? When you get GitLab.com, software as a service, they're going to give to you a thing called shared runners, which are probably a really bad marketing name. It sounds like, oh my gosh, you know, my code's going to mix with the next person's code, with the next person's code. Like it's all, that word shared doesn't go over real well. But what they mean is we have Google Cloud is my understanding. When you come in and say you want some infrastructure built to do your testing inside of, we're going to create an instance in Google Cloud, and that's where that's where your worker is going to be. You think of a runner like a worker. Effectively, what the runner will do is tell Google Cloud. So GitLab talks across the runner, tells the cloud through the runner, hey, I need you to do something for me. I need you to talk to the executor, is what they call it. It would be Google Cloud in this case, and actually build something. So Sean, what you would do is you'd build a specific runner to Kubernetes. There's instructions on how to do that. You build a Kubernetes runner, and it talks effectively to main, your controller, the API, and tells it how to build and how to integrate and what to do. So yes, we could do it. And our course currently shows how to build with GitLab and deploy into Kubernetes. We show a lot of that in the course that we already have. Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Anybody else? Questions? All right. Well, I'm going to hit the post then. Thanks for attending, guys. I will see you next week, probably not as a presenter, but as a student in the crowd. So thanks so much. See you next Monday at 8 p.m.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Zach.
thanks, Zach. See ya.
Take care.